my channel for Tarot of the Secret Forest reveal. So this is one I've picked up recently for this channel to do readings with, and this deck is really an incredible little deck. It's like a fairy deck. Secret Forest, very beautiful artwork, kind of muted down, a little bit dark at times, but I really like the style of this deck. Let me bring you in a little closer. So I have not used this deck in readings yet, but if you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I will be using this deck quite often. I'm a huge fan of Paulina Cassidy decks, so I use a lot of those. I use a lot of Oracle decks. I use a lot of all different kinds of decks. Some decks are just too dark for me. This one is not. This one is just fine. This is very soulful, spiritual deck in my opinion with the artwork, but there are some decks that are just too dark that I will not use, that I'm not comfortable using. Tarot for me is an adventure and a journey, and it's this wonderful way to goal set and kind of look at your life and look at how your choices are guiding your life. And I like to enjoy that. And I like to see the challenges, but without being terrorized, if that makes sense. You know, every deck has a death card and a devil card, and those, to me, the death is always about putting to death something that's going on in your life. Very rarely does death mean the death of a person. And I'm probably sounding like a broken record. I say this a lot on this channel, but I sometimes feel that I have to defend tarot because it is not devil worship. It is not evil. It is nothing like that. It is a fun, artistic way to look at your life and to see what's working and get rid of what's not. So, you know, the devil card is always temptation. But I just don't like decks that are bloody or gory or any of that. You will not get that on this channel. So I'd love to have you on board this little community that I'm starting here, and I'd love to hear your comments, and I'd love to hear what decks you're really into and the ones you really love. So let's go ahead and get started with this Secret Forest. So I got this on eBay, this little box here. And then you get this little book, and what's really neat about this little deck that I think, and I don't benefit at all from this, but I think it's really neat just the same. This deck is in English, Italian, Spanish, French, and Dutch. And this teeny tiny little book gives you the meaning of each and every card in each and every language of those 5. So the drawback to that, of course, is that you're getting a very limited explanation for each card. But the nice thing about this deck is it's very traditional. So if you read tarot, it's an easily adaptable deck. Okay, this is the major arcana, and I'm starting with the Fool. And then real quick, I'm gonna flip through all of them and play music just like I usually do so that you can see all the artwork. But I wanted to tell you real quick, so you've got major arcana here, and then it becomes very traditional in this regard. Now the artwork is completely untraditional, which I love, but the meanings and are very along the traditional lines of tarot. So you've got your pentacles, which are earth right here, and those cover earth signs as well. And then you've got your swords, which I read swords as air. Some people read them as fire. I read them as air. So when I read, these cover the air astrological signs. Wands to me are fire, and the fire covers the fire astrological signs, of course. And then the chalices are cups. This is the only deviation. This deck does call the cups the chalices, but same thing. And of course, cups and chalices, anything along those lines, are water, and they rule the water signs. So what I'll do is I'm going to set these up here, and I like to go earth, air, fire, and water. I don't always do that, but I'm trying to be more consistent. But you'll always see when you're looking at the art, a lot of decks will say or show what they are, okay? So what I'll do is bring over this major arcana, and I'm going to go ahead and play some music, and then I'll just flip through the majors, and then I'll flip through all the minors so that you can get a sneak peek at this gorgeous deck. So here we go. notice that the first few cards I did not show you the back of these. I just started kind of a few into it. I think I did this one. Anyway, I'm just filming straight through right now, so I'm not looking back. I'll just finish with this one here. So these are really interesting in the regard that this deck breaks a few rules, and well, like unspoken rules, really. So the back of this deck is each card in black and white in really raw depicted art of the other side, as you saw. So some people can read these, anyone can read these, like this is what's showing on the outside of your life, and then here's what's going on the inside. I've seen these cards read that way. I personally would not do that. I think there's plenty of information just reading it with the color, and I love the color. And I love the expressiveness of this deck. I think I already said that. But a couple of other rules that this breaks is, maybe not a couple, just one. One other one. It's that back is really unusual. This is the only deck I've ever seen where the back is not consistently the same exact design for every card. And then now these are so expressive, but what I love about it, here's a good example. Let's just look at this card for a minute. So this deck is really neat because in traditional decks you'll see 4 pentacles painted somewhere in the artwork, and that is not happening in this deck at all, which I actually really like. I really like both ways. I like the brazenness that this artist took to not put in the 4 pentacles within the artwork, and all of the cards are like that. They do not depict this, they don't depict 6 coins at all. 7 coins, it just isn't there. And I think that is a very bold move and a very awesome move for this deck because it really speaks to artistic license. So this artist decided, you know, I don't want to do that. I'm going to do it this way. And I really appreciate that. I love tradition. And I love seeing the swords and the wands and the cups painted into the artwork. But and another thing that this person did too was they did not put any description. There is no description verbal on any of these cards, which I really like that too because, well, for one thing, they want to transcend language clearly. So, because they've got all these different languages, and I'm assuming this is the artist here, Lucia Mattioli. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But I love that because this deck really pushes you to use your intuition while you're reading it. And you know, we all need as much practice as we can get using our intuition. So most traditional decks will tell you, it will say the Fool, the Empress, the Emperor, Justice, all those things. This deck completely says, nope, figure it out yourself. And I think that's really kind of a wicked thing, but it's a very cool thing too. So 13, I believe this is the Death card. So it's a dark card, and death to me is, I've said it so many times, but death is really about putting to death a situation that's not working for you. Very plainly speaking, it's rarely physical. And then the Devil card in this deck is extremely dark, and I don't like it at all. But I still appreciate the artistic license that this person took. I'm very, very impressed with that. So I hope you enjoyed this little review of the Secret Forest Tarot. And if you're so bold as to use this deck, you know, I'm going to stumble through this a little bit because I've been reading for years, but to be left completely without anything is going to be an adventure for me, and I'm excited about it. So a lot of what you can do with a deck like this is the pictures, the artwork is so expressive, and it gives you an opportunity to just really let your instincts flow. So this deck's very good for that. So please subscribe below. I've got a lot of very cool things going on this channel, including a lot of pick a card readings and horoscope monthly readings. So check all that out. And I am the spiritual archaeologist, so we do a lot of spiritual digs and we do a lot of spiritual excavations on this channel as well. So thank you so much for stopping by today, and I will see you next time.